Do you think you've seen dirt? Wait until you discover the countries that make India look clean. Imagine a city where the air is almost unbreathable, the streets are buried in trash, and the rivers, instead of water, are seas of sewage. This isn't a scene from an apocalyptic movie. It's the harsh reality of some of the most polluted places on Earth. And the worst part? Millions of people live in this chaos every single day, with no real hope of change. Today, you'll see the darkest side of humanity. Countries where filth has reached such unimaginable levels that it defies logic. From war-torn villages to massive cities drowning in their own waste, the story of these places is one of pure survival. And at the end, you'll find out which nation ranks number one. A place so shockingly filthy, you'll doubt it even exists in the 21st century. Stay until the end, because the number one country will leave you speechless. It's unbelievable that people still live there. Bangladesh. Bangladesh, a nation of over 160 million people, is one of the most densely populated countries on the planet. But overpopulation isn't the only challenge making life here so hard. Dhaka, the capital city, is among the most polluted cities in the world. The streets are littered with garbage, and the stench of sewage hangs in the air constantly. The Buriganga River, which runs through the city, is no longer a natural resource or a means of transportation. Today it's an open sewer, a thick black stream of industrial and household waste. One of the biggest issues is the lack of an efficient waste collection system. Trash piles up on sidewalks, eventually ending up in the rivers without any treatment. The air pollution is alarming. Thick clouds of toxic smoke float over the city 24 hours a day, mostly due to burning fossil fuels and the complete absence of environmental regulation. And yet, life goes on. People in Dhaka still move through the chaos, merchants, students, families, all trying to live their lives amid the filth. The contrast is overwhelming. The dirt has become part of everyday existence, blending into the rhythm of daily life in a way that's hard to imagine for anyone living in cleaner places. Still, the city survives. People keep going, clinging to hope for a better life. The question is, how, in the 21st century, can human life be so neglected? Nigeria. Nigeria is one of Africa's largest economies, mainly thanks to its vast oil reserves. Yet the irony is painful. Despite being one of the world's biggest oil producers, a huge part of its population lives in extreme poverty and filth. Lagos, the largest city, is a perfect example. Its streets overflow with garbage, sewage runs openly through the neighborhoods, and the air pollution ranks among the worst on Earth. In a country built on such valuable resources, basic infrastructure is at best fragile. The lack of proper sanitation affects millions, especially in poor areas of Lagos and Port Harcourt. Trash piles up everywhere, forming mounds along the streets and mixing with foul wastewater. The slums, with houses built without any urban planning, live in daily chaos. And for most Nigerians, there's no choice but to continue living among heaps of garbage. The paradox is clear. Nigeria is rich in natural wealth, yet government neglect and corruption prevent that wealth from benefiting its people. The lack of proper waste management systems affects everyone, from workers to business owners. The question remains, how can a country with so much potential still be trapped in such dysfunction? Haiti. Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the world, and its situation worsened dramatically after the devastating 2010 earthquake. Since then, the country's infrastructure has collapsed, and the lack of a stable, organized government has made recovery almost impossible. The streets of Port-au-Prince, the capital, are covered in garbage, and many rivers have turned into open sewers. Chaos is constant, and filth has become part of daily life for people struggling to survive amid destruction. Haiti's crisis goes far beyond pollution. It's a reflection of deeper problems like lack of resources, political instability, and corruption. Basic sanitation is almost non-existent, fueling the spread of disease, especially in vulnerable communities. Garbage isn't collected or treated. It's simply ignored, accumulating in alleys and neighborhoods. creating an unhealthy environment for everyone. Yet despite these conditions, the Haitian people continue to move forward with remarkable resilience. Amid the ruins, life still pulses, with markets, music, and community gatherings that somehow find light in the darkness. But the contrast is brutal. How is it possible that, in the 21st century, an entire nation still lives under layers of trash, poverty, and global neglect? Haiti's reality is one of the most tragic on earth, and the fact that so many people can still smile through it all is both a testament to their strength and a sad acceptance of life as it is. Indonesia. Indonesia is known for its paradise-like beaches and breathtaking landscapes. But behind this postcard image lies a distressing truth. The country is facing an environmental crisis like never before, one that threatens both its people and its natural beauty. Cities like Jakarta are shrouded in smog, while rivers and beaches that could be pure heaven are instead covered with plastic and industrial waste. The Citarum River, often called the most polluted river in the world, is a tragic symbol of this crisis. Its waters are saturated with plastic, chemicals, and even human waste. Plastic pollution, a global plague, has had a devastating impact on marine life and the communities that depend on clean water to survive. Despite rising awareness, Indonesia still faces huge challenges. The lack of recycling systems and environmental education only makes things worse. In some beaches, tourists expecting white sands and turquoise water instead find mountains of trash. Young Indonesian activists are fighting back, raising awareness and demanding government action. But change is slow, and much of the population remains indifferent. How did a country with such breathtaking natural beauty reach this point of degradation? And more importantly, can it be reversed before it's too late? India. India is a land of deep contrasts, where immense cultural, spiritual, and historical richness exists side by side with some of the harshest realities on earth. In cities like Mumbai, New Delhi, and Kolkata, garbage is part of the urban landscape. Overpopulation combined with poor infrastructure creates chaos. Streets buried under piles of trash and rivers like the Ganges turning into symbols of both faith and pollution. The Ganges, the most sacred river in the Hindu religion, is also one of the most contaminated. Millions dump both religious offerings and industrial or human waste into its waters. What should be pure and life-giving has become a tragic symbol of coexistence between devotion and environmental collapse. The streets of New Delhi are often choked with garbage, blending into the city's toxic air, making it one of the most polluted places on earth. A lack of waste management and careless environmental policies make things worse every year. And yet, what stands out most is the resilience of the Indian people. Despite living amid such extreme conditions, many continue to live with dignity, working, celebrating, and keeping their traditions alive. The coexistence between daily chaos and the strength of India's cultural and spiritual life shows the country's complexity. The question remains, how can a nation with such deep meaning, rich history, and immense potential continue to live in such precarious conditions? Can India, with all its diversity and strength, find a way to balance tradition and progress without sacrificing the future of its people? Pakistan. Pakistan is a nation with a large population and a growing economy, but it faces severe environmental and social challenges that directly impact its citizens' quality of life. Cities like Karachi, the country's largest, are overwhelmed with garbage, streets overflowing with waste, open sewage running freely, and an almost non-existent waste management system. The air is thick with pollution from factories and vehicles, while rivers and canals are choked with trash and toxic chemicals. Chaos seems to be everywhere, and filth is one of the most visible faces of this collapse. The lack of efficient infrastructure for waste collection and management has a direct impact on public health. Diseases transmitted by flies and rats are common, and Karachi's air pollution levels keep it ranked among the most toxic cities in the world. The sanitation system is precarious, and the vast majority of people living in major cities have no access to basic hygiene or healthcare services. Poverty makes the situation even worse, as many families are forced to live in unsanitary conditions, where trash is a constant and unavoidable presence. Pakistan also faces a deep political and economic crisis, which makes implementing effective change even harder. And yet people continue to move forward, coping with pollution and filth with remarkable resilience. But the question remains, how long can the country keep ignoring this problem? How will future generations survive in an environment where dirt and pollution are simply part of daily life? Like many of its neighbors, Pakistan is fighting a difficult battle against environmental decay, and there are no easy answers to this crisis. South Sudan. South Sudan is a country scarred by a long history of violent conflict, and years of humanitarian crisis have created one of the most desperate situations on earth. Garbage is only one of the many signs of neglect and abandonment that define life for much of its population. In cities like Juba, the capital, and across rural areas, the lack of basic infrastructure is visible everywhere. Trash piles up on the streets while raw sewage flows freely, spreading disease and worsening the social tragedy. But in South Sudan, filth is merely a reflection of something deeper, a civil war that destroyed the nation and still cripples its ability to rebuild. The absence of sanitation and the shortage of medical care have made life almost unbearable for millions. As people struggle to survive amid the ruins of war, garbage continues to accumulate, with no resources or systems in place to remove it. The country is still trying to recover after years of conflict, but the few resources available are often diverted to fuel ongoing political and military disputes. Even so, people in Juba and beyond try to carry on, surviving amid chaos. Children play among piles of trash and sewage, turning misery into a part of their everyday lives. The situation in South Sudan is heartbreaking, but it's also a reflection of a country still fighting for its very existence, while the international community remains slow to offer real, effective help. The garbage, as shocking as it is just a symptom of a much deeper crisis. South Sudan stands as a tragic example of how, when everything collapses, even environmental problems become secondary to the basic struggle for human survival. How can a country rebuild its infrastructure when it never even had the basics? For this fragile nation, the answer is anything but clear. Somalia. Somalia is one of the world's most neglected countries, a nation devastated by decades of war, humanitarian crises, and the near-total absence of government. In many of its cities like Mogadishu, filth and pollution are part of everyday life, reflecting the deep poverty and abandonment its people face. The streets are covered with mountains of garbage, rivers are contaminated, and the lack of sanitation is one of the country's greatest public health threats. But Somalia's pollution problem is only a reflection of something much greater: the total collapse of infrastructure, the lack of resources, and the absence of leadership capable of addressing even the most basic human needs. Beyond pollution, Somalia suffers from a widespread lack of essential services. In many areas, there's no trash collection at all, so waste piles up in the streets, creating a filthy and disease-ridden environment. Children play among the trash, exposed to constant health risks, because in many cases, there's simply no other option. Ongoing insecurity worsens the crisis, and the lack of funding for sanitation makes the situation almost impossible to fix. The civil war and decades of political instability have left the country in ruins. While there are some efforts to improve conditions, the lack of stability prevents any lasting progress. In many ways, Somalia is trapped in a cycle of suffering and despair, where garbage isn't just a problem, but a visible reminder of a much larger tragedy. How can a country recover when even the most basic conditions for life, clean water, sanitation, safety, are out of reach for millions? The answer for Somalia remains uncertain. As long as war, poverty, and instability continue to ravage the nation, filth will remain just one of many problems to overcome. These countries show that often, filth isn't the main problem. it's just a symptom of something much deeper. The lack of sanitation, widespread pollution, mountains of trash, and total absence of infrastructure are visible signs of broken governments, economies, and social systems. What we see on the streets of these nations isn't just garbage, it's the reflection of a global crisis rooted in poverty, corruption, and neglect. While these conditions reveal government failure and international indifference, there's still a human side we can't ignore. In every one of these countries, people continue to fight for survival, for dignity, and for a better life, despite everything. And that makes us wonder, how long will the world keep turning a blind eye while these nations are left behind, and the environmental crisis grows worse each day? What can we do as global citizens to help change this reality? These countries deserve more than indifference. They deserve a future free from filth, misery, and neglect. Which of these countries shocked you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments and share this video with someone who also needs to see this reality. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos. See you next time.